The following is a presentation of the ForceCenter podcast feed.
As Obi-Wan Kenobi once said, hello there, and welcome to Databank Brawl, the podcast where you learn about Star Wars characters, discuss them, share our little feelings, and then make those characters fight for our amusement and yours. I am your host. My name is Joseph Scrimshaw. We have a classic episode today because I am also joined by Ken Napzok and Whiskey.
Oh, sir, you know what? I felt bad the other day. I made a birthday post for you on Instagram, and I was like, "You're a Star Wars counselor. You're a Star Wars professor," and I put Star Wars drinker, and I was like, "Is Joseph going to be offended by that?" No. I mean, I had that phrase "drinker" has negative connotations in some places, but. Then I remembered all of our Databank Brawl episodes, and we are both Star Wars drinkers.
Yeah, exactly. And there's nothing wrong with having a little sip of whiskey responsibly. Yeah, if you would put Star Wars makes bad life choices because of a poor relationship with alcohol,
that might be
that would have been a wake up call.
Yeah. Well, belated happy birthday.
Well, thank you. It was a great birthday, and thank you for the nice Instagram post. I loved it. And I love this whiskey. It's great.
As I'm sipping it.
I
can't even respond
delicious.
to you. Like,
All awkward pauses. It's not any sort of improv moment. It's just a sip we're taking. I kind of wanted to celebrate this week. This past week, we got the Resistance trailer, right? So I wanted to celebrate that era because I'm now just, my mind's exploding with all the different small characters that could possibly be in this television show. Right. So I have a nice, juicy Resistance era fight for us.
Ooh, I like that. We don't do that a lot. It's been a while. Gus Tours comes to mind.
Gus Tours, the classic battle. Yes, with Constable Zuvio, right? And someday that YouTube video we keep seeing, those tantalizing shots that our friend and artist Brian Ward makes. Oh, man. Looking forward to that. But for this episode, we have a different combatant than Zuvio versus Tours. Are you ready for the first combatant?
Absolutely.
Our first combatant is Bollie Prindel.
Bollie Prindel.
That is right. You just want to sing that name, don't you? Yeah. Here's what the StarWars.com databank has to say about Bollie. A member of the ground crew assigned to the Resistance base on Dakar, Bollie Prindel is one of many crewers keeping the Resistance's starfighter squadrons ready for action on short notice.
Spell me that first name.
Okay, Bollie space Prindel. Bollie Prindel. Bollie Prindel does sound like someone who would try to pick a pocket in a Dickens novel.
That's funny. I had the Prindel, didn't have the Bollie, right? All right, that's what was happening there. Okay, nice.
Now, when you see this weirdo, if I may call him that, were you like, oh yeah, that weirdo, or is this like who, what, where?
This is more of a I'm learning a new character today.
Okay. So does Wikipedia have extra details about good old Bollie Prindel?
I mean, not a lot, but more than I would think. So the character does first appear in Force Awakens, right? So,
yep.
All right, so that's right. And then it comes back again in Last Jedi. So we got some, Snap Wexley didn't come back, but Bollie Prindel did.
Bollie Prindel didn't have as important of a mission as whatever.
That's true. But in terms of stats, where we like to start, no, other than the species you have mentioned, gender male, eye color blue, skin color pink and gray, not much there.
What species is he?
Urodel?
Urodel. No, that's not in the databank. So, all right, a Urodel.
Urodel.
Urodel. Okay,
Urodel. Yeah, so that's about it in terms of details.
Okay, he's his own guy, his own character. So he kind of has some overlap then with some of the other characters we know, like Voberdand.
Yes.
I think the specificity here is that Voberdand is maybe a little bit more in charge of allocating all of the resources.
Yes.
But Bollie is a ground crew member.
Ground crew, but also, so listed here, I'm going to the appearances. I'm sorry while I kind of dig in.
Scroll away, I'll
drink
some whiskey.
Star Wars Last Jedi, the visual dictionary. Wow, I'm trying to make sure. if it's in the novel. Oh, yeah, this is the novel, right? Right. Sorry, we do. Yes. Okay. This is so. There is a big quote from Bollie Prindel, or at least a reference, not a quote. Excuse me. It's not a quote from Prindel, but it is from Lieutenant Connix.
Ooh.
And so, and PZ, our favorite droid
PZ
from this
Forcio,
era.
yeah.
Yes. So this is it. Forget the cannon shells and the remaining maintenance stocks. Anything still down below is stain. Quartermaster Prindel will be extremely agitated by this decision. And Connix responds, Bollie will have to take it up with Snoke. Give the order, PZ. So I was like, that's the book. That's the novel.
The novel.
It's Jason
Yes,
Fry's
yes,
novel. Yeah.
yes. And, the databank is alphabetical.
Okay.
So I have scrolled by Bollie for years now because he's right up there at the top. So I've been aware of him, and I was just delighted to see him in the background during Last Jedi.
That's I love that kind of connection, including with Voberdan. You know, the Star Wars, those kind of characters aren't just tossed aside casually.
Yeah.
You know?
Those background weirdos, we know their working relationships.
Yeah.
Voberdan could fire Bollie. That's power.
Yeah.
It's real power. Do you want to give us a nice, juicy description of what this weirdo looks like?
So imagine maybe a large frog? I don't know. So Bollie Prindel is wearing the Resistance kind of typical crew uniform. That drab military green, a lot of pockets, some data sticks. Very hulking kind of figure here.
Yeah.
Big. Much like Voberdan, not the same species, obviously. The eyes, kind of like little eye stalks, almost Gungan-like.
Yeah, like thick Gungan.
Thick Gungan. That's a good, like a thick Gungan soup.
THICC.
Yeah,
thick Gungan.
Gungan. Almost like, I can't tell if it's a skin or like a shell.
Yeah, I don't think that's a hat.
It's not a hat.
I think his mouth and his eyes are soft, and then he's got like this hard shell, almost like a dinosaur.
Tortoise on a half shell here.
Tortoise on a head, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like a harder layered skin, almost like, dinosaur's a great way to describe it there. Headgear, we got kind of the good ground crew headgear that we're used to. I think Voberdan has that as well.
Yeah. Did you see this one picture of his whole body?
No, I did not.
I'm just going to hold this up to Ken to get his reaction on air. Look at that posture.
We got some hunched over Okay, so
he's leading with his
hulking,
pelvis.
but not in this one shot I have here in Wikipedia. It's almost like he's kind of wide. I didn't get that sense from that picture. Tall and big.
He's big.
Like a center in the NBA, just big and kind of like a Shaquille O'Neal build, where the other picture looks a little more, like I said, bigger, wider, not so much the case.
Yeah, I just like that he's got that bad posture where he leads with his pelvis.
He leads with his pelvis.
I had a lot of professors like that in college. Weird pelvis leaders. So I love that in his main photo, his big old mouth is just wide open.
Yes.
Like he is shocked by something.
While on Dakar, Prindel wore a brown uniform, including the duty uniform trousers, and also used a comlink headset and inventory datapad. That datapad might be key.
Oh, yeah.
Was
good
on
whacking tool.
Like you said, on the bridge of the Radis. We don't know what happened to him.
No. Oh, he was on the bridge?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but not listed as deceased here on the databank.
Okay, he's not listed as deceased, so maybe we're gonna have to go frame by Last Jedi to see if Bollie survived. I want a special cut of Last Jedi that is Holdo listing everyone who died.
Everyone who died.
Yes, Bollie Prindel too.
Yeah.
Somebody in the back says, no, not Bollie. All right, do you have any, it's hard to summon thoughts and feelings about Bollie because we don't know a lot about him.
Yeah.
Do you have any?
I do have feelings now. I'm definitely going to go pay more attention to Bollie Prindel. I feel very bad because I can see Voberdan in every shot that he's in.
Yeah.
Love Voberdan. Not so much Bollie. But I love what you said. We can make our Star Wars jokes, but that's why we like Gus Tours. Gus Tours is kind of a maintenance guy.
Yeah.
He's refueling ships. He's doing the things that you need. And we have our heroes. We have our Poes. We have even our Connixes who are in charge and all stuff. And then our Dacies, and then we have Bollie Prindel, who's like, I'm going to join the Resistance because they need a quartermaster.
Yeah.
I'm going to gather some uniforms together for people and categorize some of our supplies.
Yeah. I love Bollie because he's pretty distinctive. Fun to see him hulking around the background. Fun to see that connective tissue between Force Awakens and Last Jedi. And I do just love this idea of a quartermaster. I've always loved that word, quartermaster, in the implication that he is, much like Voberdand, also very pedantic.
Yes.
And very concerned about tracking every little detail. He's got his data pad. And I love all these big, scary pedants running around.
No, I love that Jason Fry added that detail. That's actually really cool. That old Bollie's going to be upset.
Yeah, man, if one little data pad goes missing, you hear about it, right?
Yeah, but, yeah.
Got to keep track of every little blaster, all of them. Awesome. So with that in mind, we are fans of Bollie Prindel. We are going to move on to his combatant. Now, I know you know this combatant because I know you have some thoughts, which I look forward to refreshing myself on what your thoughts are. Bollie Prindel will face our next combatant, who is Korr Sella.
Oh, little Korr Sella.
That is right. Here's what StarWars.com Databank
we
says.
We can't pull this one off.
The continual Databank Brawl question. The capable, no-nonsense Korr Sella assisted Leia Organa during her career in the New Republic's Galactic Senate and remained in her service when Leia left politics to establish the Resistance. Sella served as Leia's link to the Senate, bringing intelligence to allies and supporters who agreed with her warnings about the First Order. Sella was on Hosnian Prime as Leia's envoy when the Starkiller superweapon destroyed the system, ending her life. Korr Sella.
Yes.
An important character, really left mostly on the cutting room floor of Force Awakens, and we see her looking in horror as that bright beam of death races towards her and Chancellor Villachem and several other characters there.
Yeah. Maisie Richardson Sellers portrays her in Force Awakens.
And she has had a reoccurring role. She's a series regular on the CW's Legends of Tomorrow, one of their many DC shows. Plays the character Vixen. Okay. One of the versions of Vixen is a phenomenal actor. And when I went to rewatch Force Awakens, I was like, oh, wow, I didn't even realize Korr Sella is Vixen.
Because, she's there for so long. I really love the character Korr Sella, but let's get some stats there before
before we go deep into our emotions.
Because I will.
Because the height, it's always really what decides Databank.
The height.
Knowing the height.
We don't know Bollie Prindel, but looks tall.
He's tall.
Maybe over 2 meters. Species is human, gender female, 1.65 meters. Hair color, black eye color, brown skin color, dark. She is, got that strong military look to her.
Yeah.
But she, in service to Leia. More on the politics side, I think. She was more being groomed for that, in my mind, than military leadership.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure there's some more details because she features in Bloodline.
Yes,
quite a bit, right?
There's a lot here in the tab.
Because she's a major character in Bloodline, and I think she and Leia have some, no pun intended, bad blood, right? And then she comes back to Leia.
Yeah, because she's like about 15, 16. She's like, her dad's in politics, and then she's like an intern for Leia, essentially.
Right, and Leia really trusts her, but then I think Korr Sella is put off, I can't remember, by some of Leia's choices or the revelation.
She was deeply upset and angry, I'm reading directly here, following the public revelations about Leia's true parentage as the daughter of Darth Vader.
Yeah.
So that affected Leia's credibility in the galaxy, which is an interesting thing that I think is overlooked a lot in new canon. To me, it's one of my favorite little moments.
A huge part, yeah.
Right, it is. But then, so it would make sense. Of course, Sella's like, oh, I worked for you. I looked up to you, and you're the daughter of this evil monster we're all trained to hate?
Yeah.
It would throw you for a loop.
Yeah, but then she does come back to
Leia,
back,
right? Yeah, absolutely.
Because they're set on the path of we're just starting the Resistance.
Yeah.
And we talked about this earlier on the main show. There's a fascinating bit of storytelling that I think we're going to get more of some way, somewhere, somehow, of how Korr Sella becomes the connective thread between Leia and the Resistance and the Republic.
Yeah, Leia sends Korr Sella on this important mission. And Leia, we always talk about quotes about the characters. I like this one. This is Korr Sella, often referred to as Corey at this time. again, about 15, 16. But why don't you go yourself, General? And I think this is a little bit later on, actually, excuse me. This is more when she's Korr Sella. This is probably from the Force Awakens novel. But why don't you go yourself, General? An appeal of this nature is always more effective when delivered firsthand. Leia says, I might make it to the Senate. Yes, I might even be able to deliver my speech, but I would never get out of the Hosnian system alive. I would have a terrible, quote, accident or become the victim of some deranged radical, or I would eat something that didn't agree with me or encounter someone who didn't agree with me. That is why Leia sent Korr Sella to speak for her to the government and Chancellor Villachim on Hosnian Prime.
Yeah.
It's important stuff.
Yeah. And there were some scenes shot with Leia and Korr Sella, right? In Force Awakens, the deleted scenes.
Yeah, there's more of that. You get more of why Korr Sella was there, and why you see that balcony moment, why it holds a little bit more weight than it did, admittedly, the first time.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
It's like, oh, sad people are dying.
Yeah.
It was the visual dictionary where I first learned, oh, that's the Chancellor, and that's Korr Sella, Leia's, bloodline hadn't come out yet, but you're like, oh, there's a story here, and the visual dictionary does put a little of that story there.
Okay, nice. All right, so now that we've talked about the nuts and the bolts, we got a quote, we got height. How do you feel about Korr Sella? Because I seem to remember you doing Spotlight Star Wars back in the day.
Back in the day, the curious case of Korr Sella. Korr Sella represents to me a lot of things. It represents one slightly, I'll start on this side, a negative in a way, of a missed opportunity in Force Awakens, where the state of the galaxy, we still even hear it with Last Jedi, and I understand this critique. The state of the galaxy is not clear. You have to read the novels, comics, and everything else to get a clear picture. You could say it was because of the prequels, they didn't want to go into politics, and all that makes sense to me. And the pacing, I always talk about pacing, it's important in films, but they cut all this out, and it was intriguing to me, but started when I followed Korr Sella down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And that is where you start to realize there's a lot in the new Star Wars, a lot of cool things going on, a lot of interesting things, a lot of politics, a lot of intrigue, and a lot of cool characters. And you have to start looking at things a little bit beyond just the movie nowadays.
Yeah.
Original trilogy at times a little different, Legends a little different. Nowadays, if you want, the rewards are there.
Yeah.
You can follow this very interesting and important character down a path if you want to.
Yeah, Korr Sella is holding some narrative medals that you can,
Perfect.
I really like the character, the idea of somebody who has trained with Leia, who's got to know Leia, who's had her trust betrayed up to a point, and just knowing that Leia won her back over.
Yeah.
And then having the trauma. Well, by the time Leia says to Holdo in The Last Jedi,
Yeah.
there's been too many losses.
Yeah.
You keep piling it up for poor Leia. Like, you think of course, Han, but now, like, Korr Sella, somebody she raised and trained and took on this dangerous mission for her, and she
Sent her
just
there,
died.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man. It's rough. But it'll be exciting to see if we get to see her more. And regardless, we're going to see her more right now.
Yes.
As somehow we construct a fight between these two people from the Resistance. Now, if you're ready, if our whiskey is ready, let's fight.
Let's do it.
So we always like to figure out the where, the when. We always like to set it before a character has died. Now, I'm concerned about Bollie Prindel's fate. I don't remember him being on the Falcon, but maybe at the end of Last Jedi, maybe he survived. Korr Sella, I don't think has like a personal shield, and she's floating in space and would be picked up. I think she has been vaporized. So I think these events have to be when the Resistance is it's cooking with gas for however long before the Force Awakens.
Yes. I think this occurs on Dakar.
A squabble on Dakar.
The squabble on Dakar. That's a good title for the episode. I think it happens on Dakar, and I think it's when they're kind of starting to ramp up for action.
Yeah.
And she's kind of a right-hand person for Leia, so if you need some kind of money, some budget freed up, you might go to Korr Sella before you go directly to General Leia. And maybe that's where this begins. I don't know.
Oh, I'm liking this. Yeah, I think all of the spies, all the chatter is that the First Order is ramping up to something big. They're racing to both find information on Luke. Leia knows this is getting heated. And I think she tells Korr Sella that you are not just a diplomat.
Yeah.
You are, all of us are targets.
Yeah.
All of us have to be warriors. So you need to go get yourself a blaster. You should even in the safety of the car, you should always have one on your person ready to go. So I think Korr Sella listens to her general, and she goes straight to the weapons depot.
Yeah.
And I think she picks out a blaster. Do you have an idea of the kind of blaster you think she?
She picks up a little similar to Leia's.
Okay.
She idolizes Leia in probably some level. Looks up to her.
Yeah.
So I think she wants one of those little. I don't know what the officially are, but the Leia blasters.
The Leia blaster, the little holdout pistol.
I can look that up. But
I like that. Yeah. And I think that unbeknownst to her, Bollie has those really set aside. They don't have many, and those are specifically to be held for Leia.
Yeah.
Those are he has them labeled as their proper name, but also under General Organa's preferred sidearm.
Sidearm, which is, I'm looking up here, is a Defender Sporting blaster pistol.
Nice. Nice.
At least that's what it looks like. The Delirian Defense Conglomerate.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. So I think Bollie is busy talking to Snap Wexley.
Yeah.
Snap is trying to kid out. He wants an ankle blaster, and Bollie's discussing it with him about whether or not they have enough ankle blasters. Like, I think Bollie says, a lot of ankles in the Resistance.
Everyone wants an ankle blaster.
I know. I mean, it seems like it's not that secret. People check ankles these days. I mean, we've been at war for a long time in different ways.
Maybe a small back blaster, put it in your belt. But everyone wants an ankle blaster. Looks cool.
Armpit blaster, ever thought of that? Nope. Nobody's creative anymore. Need more creativity in the galaxy.
Head armor flap blaster. That's probably something only I could pull up there, Snap.
And Korr Sella, thinking nothing of it, walks in behind Polly's back, reaches in and grabs that Defender pistol, right?
Yes.
And she just she picks it up, and I don't know if one needs to do this, but I think she's going to check the action.
Yes.
She makes a nice blaster click.
Did she hold up and kind of make a pew pew sound like holdo? Did she kind of go? Pew,
oh yeah,
pew,
I think she checks it. I think she aims at something that's the eye sighting.
Yeah.
Pew, pew, pew. And I think Bollie turns around, having acquiesced and given the ankle blaster to Snap.
Yeah.
And I think Bollie whirls around, pelvis sticking out, eyes wide, like, hey.
What are you doing with that?
You can't just take blasters. And I think Korr Sella is very stressed because this woman that she trusts basically just says, at any second, any of us could die.
Yeah.
The First Order could come crashing here at any second, really. We have our radar up. We keep our defenses, but
Shields.
You never know. And I think Korr Sella is also very, very aware, having spent more time with Leia, this revelation. I think she's afraid of Kylo in particular.
Yeah.
Right? Because she truly, I mean, the whole galaxy knows, but Korra was close to it. And she knows, the grandson of Vader.
She's worried about that now.
She's worried about it. She's got a lot of fear.
She's got a lot of fear. And I've always looked at Korr Sella just in the shots of the characters, what I described it as like kind of militaristic. Very posture, hands behind her back, hair pulled back tight. And I think even in Bloodline, she strikes me a little bit as a nicer version of like Tracy Flick from Election.
Okay.
Like, I'm up early. I made the cupcakes. Here's a list of the things I did. Like, and that's what Leia loves about her. So maybe, though, to the wrong person, Korr Sella could come off as a little cold, just kind of like demanding. And I think that's what's at play here. So Bollie turned like, you go, whoa, hey. And she's like, we need this.
Yeah.
We need this for the great cause. I need this. I'm doing important things here. Please, I get out of my way. I've got to take this.
Yeah, she's like, just mark it on your data pad.
Yeah. Just come on, Bollie. Quartermaster Prindel. I know it's on. You see that I'm taking it. End this conversation.
Yeah, and I think Bollie in his mind thinks, sure, I'll mark it down. But he's just like, okay, I'll do that. And I think he just, not thinking, he reaches out with his mitt and he grabs it.
Yeah.
And I think this triggers in Korr Sella a fight or flight response.
Yeah.
She is aware that spies are everywhere. And as this big hand grabs the blaster, Bollie accidentally kind of twists her wrist a little bit, so the blaster is pointing at her. And I think that moment she's like, "Oh no, no, Bollie didn't mean to do this."
Right.
But I think it kicks off those instincts of he's a first order spy.
Oh wow!
So I think
It's like similar to Poe's quick gut reaction on Holdo that was wrong, but it's like that kind of thing. There's something in the water there in the car.
Yeah, there's a lot of paranoia in the water. Yeah.
So she's like, so he has the blaster.
Yeah, he's kind of trying to grab it, and he accidentally twists her wrist.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then I think maybe I think she yells. Doesn't yell. I think she murmurs, "Spy!" And I think she lashes out with her boot and kicks Polly in the knee.
Okay. I have a good Bollie knee shot. Yeah, dude. Hey! Oh. And in the process, I think he wins control of the blaster. I think he ends up with it in his hands.
Yeah. And I think it goes off.
It goes off.
And I think it actually hits the door control.
Yeah.
So the door accidentally closes, and they get sealed in this tiny space full of blasters and weaponry.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh,
deadly.
no.
Deadly.
Okay.
What do you think? So the blaster goes off. That door slams shut. This is making it look even more like he is this amazing spy who shut the door so he could murder Korr.
Yeah.
And lie about it later.
Yeah, I think she takes evasive action, runs behind a canister, a couple canisters for protection, and looks around her and sees what she has.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of weapons there. So I think she grabs a blaster rifle and takes a combat stance and jumps up.
Yeah.
And starts, no hesitation, just starts firing back at Bollie.
Yeah, I think this is an old school rebellion rifle. I think this is a nice solid A280.
Yep.
Like they had on Hoth.
Yep, those are good. She's not a great shot, though.
Yeah, rapid fire, shots going everywhere. And
she's nervous, too. This is her first kind of action like this.
Bollie, his knee still hurts. He barely knows what's going on. And Bollie, this is his species, Uridel?
Uridel, yeah.
Uridel have a defensive choice, which is to create a profile. So he goes, profile! He turns sideways.
Again, he's more lanky than bulky. So
his big eyes are hanging out there.
Smart.
Tries to turn to profile, but these shots, I mean, even with not being a good shot, this is a repeating rifle, right? I mean, so shots are singing out. I think he gets singed.
I think he's singed. I also think the blaster bolt hits one of them hits his head shell.
Yeah,
better term. And we discover how hard it is. The bolt blast ricochets off.
Yeah, so I think it
finds no purchase.
A bolt ricochets off, hits another rack of thermal detonators, and they tumble onto the ground.
The thermal detonators?
Yeah, they're just rolling around now.
Not activated.
No. They're rolling around, and then I think since his pelvis sticks out in his profile, that gets a little singe. Just like
right at the belt line.
Right at the belt line. Just enough to make you really nervous.
Yeah.
So I think Bollie is yelling this whole time, right? Like, what? Why? How? So many things happening. So little time to talk. Yeah. I need to note everything that's happening.
Corey, I knew you when you were in high school. What are you doing?
But I think Bollie is yelling all these things, and Corey's not quite hearing them.
She's in an altered state here. She thinks she's discovered a first order spy.
Yeah, so I think she's trying to get to her communicator too. And her comlink, and I think Bollie tries to quickly close the distance, but the floor is now covered with thermal detonators. So what do you think happens?
He runs towards her because she's got up the communicator, the comlink, and he hits those thermal detonators. And in honor of, say, Jar Jar Binks, just go, whoa, falls, does the whole classic legs up in the air, falls back to ground, boom, detonators kind of fly more. Interesting enough, in the hallway behind this locked door, Snap Wexley walks back up, and he's like knocking. He can't open the door. And he's like, hey, Bollie, I need a holster for this ankle. I forgot to get a holster. Oh, okay, I'll come back later. Sounds like you're busy. And he walks away.
Clunk, clunk. Wow, he's really remodeling in there. Snap said he's reorganizing.
Doing a lot.
He is closed for business.
Yeah.
All All right, so did Bollie fall all the way down?
Mm-hmm.
He's all the way down, right? Okay.
Yes.
But from Korr's perspective, what she sees is one of the thermal detonators he hits on the way down, like Jar Jar, he kicks, right?
Yes.
And she had taken cover behind those canisters.
Right.
So that thermal detonator hits the wall, falls back down, bops her in the head, and then just lands right next to her. So from her perspective, it looks like Bollie just somehow threw a thermal detonator at her.
Yes.
Now, it's not activated.
It's not activated. Okay, I was going to say.
But she's just like, what would Leia do? Leia would close the distance. That's what I mean. And she spent some time with Han too, and she's like, Han, watching Han fight, you just got to take a risk. You got to close the distance and end it.
Right.
So I think she leaps over the canister with the intention to just end it. I think she takes the A280.
Yeah.
And I think she tries to ram the butt of it into Bollie's eye.
Oh,
his soft, vulnerable
His
eye.
soft, vulnerable
His big,
eye stalks.
blinky, once kind.
Yeah, left eye stalk here. And she goes to do that, and he moves his head suddenly. She misses. She hits the ground. The blaster goes off. Ding, boom, the blaster shoots up into the ceiling, knocks out the lights in there.
It's totally dark.
That's pretty much totally dark. Only some lights from weaponry and tech that's flashing and stuff like that. Yeah, and now it's dark.
And I think Bollie is fumbling around. I think he's yelling, "No! I have to note everything that happens. Their thermal detonator is on the ground. Korr Sella might be a traitor. I don't know what's going on." And he's throwing his limbs around, right? Or maybe even he's throwing his limbs around, and he goes to the other defensive posture of his people, which is to put his head down and just swing it around. Because he knows he has that hard shell.
Right.
Now, he is standing in the middle of this dark room full of thermal detonators and swinging his big hard head around.
Yeah. Whoa.
Does he hit? He's making that noise too. There's some great Doppler humor here. Where does he connect with Korr Sella?
Yeah. Right square in the jaw.
Oh, no. Wow, he cracks Korr Sella in the jaw.
Boom. She goes flying back.
Oh, no.
If you could see it in this dark room, you would see she's arms flailing like a boxer been punched. And boom, lands on the ground. Now separated entirely from that blaster. Everything. And that she's hurting.
Separated from everything. And she hears like this little creaking. And her eyes are starting to adjust to the darkness, but not quite.
Yeah.
Something falls from a top shelf. That's like really, she's been in here before and she knows like that's really Bollie only touches this.
Yeah.
It falls and a wooden box cracks open. She thinks she sees like a shimmering little cylinder, but then a button is hit on it as it hits the ground and it ignites.
Wow. It's a lightsaber?
A lightsaber.
How did that get in there?
A mystery. I mean,
What color lightsaber, bro?
I want to think that it is green. Now, it is not.
Green. It's not the
It is
green
not the
lightsaber?
green lightsaber. We know where that is.
Yeah. Yeah.
According to the Last Jedi novel.
Yes.
We know that is tucked away on Ahch-To. But now, from Korr Sella's perspective, she's like, what is this about? And Bollie's like, oh, no, that ancient relic that I found. And I don't know if Korr's really hearing all this, but but Bollie says what's on his mind. He's like, that ancient relic that I found and kept just in case Master Luke ever came back and needed it.
Yeah. I don't know if he'd have his own. But Korr in this moment thinks she's discovered a secret, like Sith Lord or something.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
Her mind is all over the place.
Yeah, but
she's got the blade.
But she can suddenly see by the light of this, and she's hearing. Like, I think there's a lot of noise. Maybe her ears are ringing from getting cracked in the face and the jaw. But I think she picks up this glowing green lightsaber, and I think she advances on Bollie. And I think Bollie's like, oh, right?
Yeah. He grabs some thermal detonators, a couple, and just like throws them at her, trying to distract her.
Right. And she starts
Like throwing softballs at an advancing knight.
slicing through the thermal detonators,
Oh,
which
no.
I don't think ignites them. Maybe.
Would that make them explode?
Would it?
For this particular case, no.
Zing,
She severs
zing.
the explosives from the device itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost.
Don't question it. Don't question it,
Yeah.
everybody.
Well, I mean, our improv takes us where it takes us.
Takes us where it takes us.
Maybe Korr Sella is force sensitive and never knew, and instinctively
Shut them
she
off.
is cutting it. But a green lightsaber, a relic of the past,
Relic of the past, indeed.
swinging towards poor, defenseless Bollie Prindel.
Yeah.
And ancient legends of his people,
Yeah.
what do they tell him about the strength of his head? Will a lightsaber pierce his head, does he believe?
He was told back in the day in the great Uridel Jedi Wars that are not talked about a lot outside of their system, that many Uridel fell, but they never fell from a blow to the head.
All right, so I think Uridel gets into a protective. I think he's yelling, "No, Korr, please, why?" But he gets down into a protective stance.
Yeah.
And Korr brings the saber swinging down.
Yeah. Right on his head.
It hits his head, and now it makes a cut,
It makes a cut,
but it doesn't go all the way.
What it turns out, Uridel's skin, particularly that on the hard shell of the head, is part cortosis, which, as we know from Thrawn Alliance, this is a very important material.
This strange energy radiating in his head at all times is one of the things that makes him so good at his job.
Yeah, it's also why people are always like, is it just because Bollie always complaining about a headache?
Yeah, and is there always a light buzz
Yeah.
around Bollie?
My electronic devices always seem to, I can't record my space podcast around him.
Yeah. And I think that Korr, this stops Korr in her tracks, right?
The blade is rendered almost ineffective at this time. I mean, you could reignite it, but, she's stunned by this.
Yeah. Is it still ignited, or did it turn off?
I think you had said it made a cut, made like a, I think then it goes, and just disengages,
Yeah, it disengages. Who knows what Korr is thinking? But in this moment, Bollie Prindel has a moment to strike. Yeah. Do you think that he physically strikes Korra, or do you think he says something?
I think he begs for his life at this point, that and tries to explain his stance.
Yeah.
It's not a attack move, but from a certain point of view, it is.
Yeah.
He's like, Korr, my head. Oh, I'm not a spy. I don't know what you're thinking. I've never used the Force. Look at me. I'll try to lift this thing. It's not moving. I can't even get out of this door. And he starts pounding on the door.
Okay, so he got up, he moved around?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
His head shakes the cobwebs out, and she's just sitting there holding this blade. Like, what's happening?
Yeah. And I think that she ignites the blade and takes a step forward, and he brings up his last and his greatest defense. He realizes, no, I can prove it. And he pulls out a data pad, and he starts punching numbers.
Right.
I think this is a good place to pause in our combat, like we do, and decide who we think should win this battle, who would win this battle. How are you feeling?
I think I don't want either of them to lose, but I think Korr would win in a confrontation.
In a physical
He's
fight.
got some advantages, some natural advantages as we've seen now with his head, but I think she's probably got a little more training, probably went to some self-defense classes, Leia probably sent her to those, she's a well-rounded presence here in the Resistance. So I would say she would win physically.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think so. Now, who do you want to win?
I kind of want her to win as well, but Voberdan's friend, Bollie, didn't do anything wrong.
I don't think he's actually hit her once on purpose, has he?
She's the aggressor. She's the one confused.
Yeah.
She needs a lesson, I think. A lesson.
Yeah. I think that is true. Here's my idea of what begins to happen as we tell this story. I think Bollie brings up his data pad, and he realizes he starts to punch up because he has tracked the movements of everyone in the Resistance throughout the base, so he knows who has what weapon, where, and when, and if he suddenly needs a specific blaster, he will know that's in Jess Pava's bunk.
Oh, yeah, gotcha.
So he realizes, look, I can show you. I have never been anywhere. This is where I've been for the last year. And he's punching the numbers up. He pulls up the data pad.
In this office.
And Korr thinks the way he shoves it, it feels like he's going to hit her in the face.
Oh, wow.
And Korr brings the lightsaber slashing down. It just cracks, it slashes through the data pad. The data pad sparks. The sparks burn Bollie's eyes, and the light is too much. But when his beloved data pad is cut in half, Bollie falls to his knees and begins to weep.
And he wept.
And he wept.
Oh, please don't. I'm just a quartermaster.
My data pad is my whole life.
Oh, my records are on there.
And I think
the cloud doesn't work as much as you think.
I believe in local information. Local information. Networks are the thing of Satan. And then I think that might get through to Korr finally, right?
Yes, she stops. And she looks down at her hands with this blade in her hands. And she's like, she looks really close at it. And she like looks, and there's an engraving on the bottom. And it just says K-I-T. Kit, she says aloud. She goes, this is truly the blade of a Sith warrior. And Vober's like, oh, I don't think the Sith had green blades. Please don't use it to kill me.
Yeah, and I think that pause and comment is like, what? I know Sith had red blades, and I know you would know because you are of their ilk. You're aligned with them, aren't you? He's like,
You false and tricksy. No, I'm not.
I think that's the blade of Kit Fisto. Let me show you on my backup personal data pad. That was my resistance data pad. And he pulls up a photo of like, we recovered this from. I have no idea how it escaped the clutches of Palpatine, but it was discovered. I don't know why it wasn't destroyed. It was discovered in the temple. The old Jedi. Anyway, too much information. TMI. And he pulls up a picture of Kit Fisto's smiling face. Like, this blade belonged to a Jedi, and I was just keeping it in case Master Skywalker came back and needed it, to give us all hope. And I think now Korr Sella's heart is melting.
Yeah, she's slowly starting to realize the errors of her way. Mm-hmm. She took her mind down a corridor that she could not turn around from, and that's dangerous.
Yeah.
That's dangerous. And that's some of the stuff that Leia always taught her. Attachment is forbid, she would say. That's one thing that I know is going around the galaxy, Leia would say. But that's also attachment to your own ideas. If Leia was here, she'd be like, you thought Bollie was one thing, and he wasn't, and you got attached to your initial idea.
That is right. So I think Korr says, I'm sorry, I thought you were trying to attack me because you grabbed the blaster. And I think Bollie's like, no, I really like it's keeping track of my stuff. It's mine to keep track. It belongs to everybody, but it's mine. I check boxes and I know where things are. And
it's my job to catalog.
Yeah, and I think Korra calmly puts the blade down.
Yeah.
And I think maybe she tells him, look, we both made some mistakes here today. Mm-hmm. I think now her training from Leia as a negotiator, as a diplomat, is coming back into play. She's like, look, I should have asked you for the blaster. Mm-hmm. You should have used your words and not just grab my hand, because we are living in a high-stakes galaxy. And when you grab someone, you get attacked. Mm. Do you understand, Bollie? And I think Bollie says, yeah, I do. But he's not thinking. And he puts his hand on Korr's shoulder. And I think just to make it clear, I think she does a cool move where she swipes his hand away with one hand. And then how they do in the action movies, the palm.
Palm to the chest?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to take the air out of him. He's like, what did I just say?
Yeah.
And Bollie's like, oh, yeah. Don't surprise people with grabbing stuff.
Don't do that.
I need to write that down.
And he leans into her and goes, Can you do me a favor, Korr? Can you not tell Vober anything that happened here today?
And I think that Korr's like, I will not tell Vober if you will not tell Leia. And now I am offering you, I am telling you ahead of time, I am extending my hand, not in combat, but to shake on our agreement. And I think it's very scary for both of them.
Yeah.
They're high tension.
Yeah, high tension moment.
Accidentally and on purpose beat the crap out of each other.
Yeah.
But I think their hands slowly extend. And I think they shake.
They shake like the resistance needs to. They need to shake hands with each other and get along.
That's right. And I think somewhere, not even cognizant of his own existence within the cosmic force, because he was not trained in these ways, I think somewhere, somehow, the essence of Kit Fisto smiles.
Like a cloud in the sky.
That's right.
Is that cloud smiling? I think so.
Is that a happy aquatic man with tentacle hair? It is.
It is.
It is. And now we know why Cloud Kit Fisto smiled that day.
Cloud Kit Fisto.
Do you have any post-credit scenes?
No, other than a sad one on the bridge of the Radis. Bollie Prindel one day in his as they escape from Dakar, thinks for a moment and looks down on Dakar at his friend Korr Sella, knowing she never had a chance to get off the planet Hosnian Prime or Dakar. She would have been a valuable asset. He knows.
That's right. He keeps track of all the assets in his heart.
He
and
does.
He knows that was one of the Resistance's most valuable assets. That is our tale. It's so sad that sometimes people on the same side have to fight. But they
happens.
do. We have no choice. It is just the nature of Databank Brawl. Ken, as always, I want to know where people can find you.
You can find me thinking more about Korr Sella and her place in the Resistance at Ken Napzok. That includes YouTube, where my Motivations with Ken videos are now there Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
That is awesome. As always, if there are characters that you want to see fight, do you want to see two Resistance fighters go up against each other, two First Order loyalists go up against each other? Let us know. Use the hashtag Databank Brawl. We always like to thank Tony Thaxton for our theme music. He's got his new Patreon rebuilt to be all about Star Wars music. That is Cloud City Soundtrack, so go check that out. Of course, you can find us on Patreon. That's patreon.com/ForceCenter. You can check out our merch, including that Whiskey Jedi shirt at tpublic.com/user/ForceCenter. You can find Databank Brawl episodes on YouTube as well, or maybe you're watching/listening to this on YouTube right now and you know it. If you're there, go ahead and subscribe. If you haven't, leave us a comment or a thumbs up. And speaking of that, we are building towards more ratings and reviews on iTunes. We're pretty close to 500. When we get to 500, we'll do a special episode of Databank Brawl starring major characters from the Star Wars franchise. You can also check out my podcast, Obsessed, and info on all my comedy adventures on my website at josephscrimshaw.com. You can also find me on Twitter and Instagram is at Joseph Scrimshaw, and you can like ForceCenter on Facebook and follow us on Twitter is at ForceCenterPod. And until next time, as Luke Skywalker once said, well, no one was really listening to him. I care. That's it for Databank Brawl.